promoting a healthy environment. It's the air we breathe. Clean, safe water. Responsible management of our natural resources. We protect and restore for a sustainable future. Environment matters.
It was built to coexist with the forest. It's a building that, in the end, actually produces more energy than it uses.
It's called a living building, one of just a few in the country, and it was built right here in West Virginia. We'll take a tour of the Sustainability Treehouse at Summit Bechtel Scout Reserve and see how it combines high-performance building design with environmental stewardship. Plus,
protecting the environment is not something that the DEP does alone. It takes a collective effort. It takes all of us working together.
Honoring those who go above and beyond to make West Virginia a cleaner and healthier place to live and work. We'll profile some of the winners of this year's DEP Environmental Awards. Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Environment Matters. I'm Greg Adolphson.
And I'm Kelly Gillenwater. Freedom Industries and its parent company, Chemstream Holdings, have agreed to set aside $2.5 million to cover cleanup costs at its Etowah River Terminal.
That's the site of a January 2014 chemical spill that contaminated the drinking water supply for hundreds of thousands of area residents. The DEP's Jake Glantz joins us now with details.
Well, Greg, Kelly, the agreement filed earlier this month in U.S. bankruptcy court in Charleston holds back that money so it can only be used for cleanup at the site and not for other costs associated with Freedom's bankruptcy proceedings. It's a much different scene here today than it was this time last year. Gone are the above-ground storage tanks and their associated pipelines and concrete pads, ordered removed by Governor Tomlin in the weeks following the spill. Now comes the removal of contaminated soil and the process of remediating the site to make sure none of the residual chemical makes its way into the Elk River. Making sure there was money available from Freedom to cover the costs was a top priority.
Whenever you're dealing with in a bankruptcy situation like this, you just never know. We don't have control. You know, there are other creditors out there, the other claimants. So you have the civil case going on. You have the bankruptcy judge in the bankruptcy court in charge of the money.
Freedom had initially offered $150,000 toward the cleanup, which the judge in the case rejected as too low. Although the final cost of the cleanup has not been calculated, Secretary Huffman is confident that the $2.5 million will be enough.
This is not our first brownfield site. It's not the first time we've done reclamation work. I mean, that's something this agency has been engaged in for a long time. We know how much it costs to move dirt. We know how much, you know, we know. So we can look at this site, make a few judgments, and get a range for what it's going to be. We really took more advantage of the opportunity to get $2.5 million than to set the $2.5 million as a threshold. It wasn't like that. It was we saw the opportunity to get that much money, knew that it would be more than enough, and decided to secure it.
The agreement also requires the hiring of a consultant to handle the remediation process. A plan for the project should be in place by this fall. As for the future, there are still a few things that need to be done before the remediation work can actually begin. Soil from the site will be removed and a cap put in. Freedom will be allowed to dispose of up to 1,500 tons of soil at the Charleston landfill. For Environment Matters, I'm Jake Glantz.
Thanks, Jake. The contaminated soil is classified as non-hazardous waste by the DEP and properly handled poses no danger to the public or the environment.
the DEP plans a public hearing to discuss details of the remediation plan once finalized later this year. The meeting will also be streamed live on the Environment Matters YouTube channel.
A study by the DEP into the impact from the disposal of drill cuttings and drilling waste from natural gas well sites and landfill found little reason for concern. The study, mandated by the West Virginia legislature, focused on the leachate collected from landfills and any potential negative impacts on surface or groundwater associated with the collection, treatment, and disposal of the leachate. Leachate is the liquid that drains or leaches from a landfill. The study also looked into the feasibility and benefits of establishing additional and/or separate disposal locations that are constructed, owned, and operated by the oil and gas industry, and any viable alternatives for handling the disposal of drill cuttings and drill waste. The research found little concern regarding leachate associated with drill cuttings that were placed in approved and permitted landfills once that leachate was processed through a correctly operated treatment facility. Marshall University, Glenville State College, and the West Virginia Department of Transportation's Division of Highways also contributed to the report. A copy of the report, as well as additional statistical and analytical data, is available on our website, dep.wv.gov. Turning architecture into adventure and teaching lessons of sustainability and environmental stewardship in the process.
That's the mission of the Sustainability Treehouse at the Summit Bechtel National Scout Reserve in Fayette County. The DEP's Mike Huff takes us on a tour.
In the middle of summer, without the signs, it's actually easy to miss, tucked into a hillside inside a stand of mature trees. But from its steel footings firmly anchored to the forest floor, to its 10,000-watt solar and wind power array peeking through the canopy 125 feet in the air, you can tell this is no ordinary treehouse.
It was built to coexist with the forest. It produces its own electricity, it collects its own rainwater, it has composting toilets, even things like using Core 10 steel for the structure so that it never has to be painted. That Core 10 rusts and gives it a strong patina and protects the steel. We used native wood from the area here that was either taken from the site locally or from sustainable forest nearby. It's one of the few buildings in the country that actually meets the Living Building Challenge, and that means that it's a building that is Red List compliant when it was constructed.
The Living Building Challenge is a building standard from the group livingfuture.org. It calls for the creation of building projects at all scales that, according to the group's website, operate as cleanly, beautifully, and efficiently as nature's architecture. The Red List is a list of prohibited construction materials like added formaldehyde, polyvinyl chloride, and phthalates. But what wasn't used in the construction is only half the story.
We have wood that we harvested here on site. As part of our campsite creation, we had to obviously take down some trees. We took all of that to a local sawmill, and we're building out of those same trees. We have black locust made out of the local trees. The siding on the side is all white oak made here from the trees. It's all treated with this treatment called eco wood that doesn't require any treatment in the future. So I won't have to deal with peeling paint or varnishes that are coming off or anything like that, which obviously saves us money. So that's kind of one of the important things about sustainability, is it's not just about the environment. Well, if you can't afford it, it's not sustainable.
The treehouse represents a renewed commitment by the Boy Scouts to the ideas of conservation and environmental stewardship.
When we selected the site in West Virginia, there were several core principles we were looking at for this, and one of them was sustainability. So there were several things we did on this site to actually make it a more sustainable site. A lot of the materials that were used to construct the site we used were natural materials from this area. We wanted to show all that off, and a way to show that off was through an exhibit. And the best way to do that was through a sustainability treehouse.
It's pretty cool. If I had a house, it would probably look like this for my dream house.
We want a well-rounded experience for the kids, and everything here is meant to be fun, interactive, teach them things that their parents could afford to do, and a lot of it's easy stuff that most of us have been trying to get our kids to do anyways, like turning off lights and turning the water off while they're brushing their teeth. That's basic stuff that saves you money and also saves the environment.
And it seems to be working.
It's a really cool place. I've learned that there's a lot of ways to sustain life and go green and recycle and do good for the earth and give back to it.
This is a great opportunity for us in West Virginia to show off what we really can do. This building was built by local contractors, done here on a site that was previously mined site, and it is cutting edge. It has won several awards for its design and its sustainability, and we can tell that story here in West Virginia.
And there will be plenty of opportunities to tell that story to a worldwide audience. The Summit will host the National Jamboree in 2017 and the World Jamboree in 2019, giving Scouts and their families from around the country and around the world a chance to experience the Sustainability Treehouse. At the Summit Bechtel National Scout Reserve in Glenjean, I'm Mike Huff for Environment Matters.
And it's not just at jamborees. Besides the Boy Scouts, the Summit hosts other groups throughout the year, including the Girl Scouts and 4-H groups. There's even an international student ambassador program planning to bring some students over from China to visit West Virginia and do a sustainability workshop there at the Treehouse. What do you get when you bring 150 kids from across the state to Cedar Lakes for a week? It's the DEP's annual Junior Conservation Camp.
This was the 36th year for the camp, which is for kids 11 to 14 and hosted by the DEP's Youth Environmental Program. After getting settled in and relinquishing their cell phones, campers were in for a full week of activities like fishing, canoeing, archery, and crafts. They also attended classes that included everything from first aid to hunter safety to how to conduct a water study.
Probably the best feedback is we have a high percentage of return campers. They enjoy the activities, they enjoy the classes, the friends that they make. First-time campers, we have a fair portion this year. What they look forward to is a lot of the social things, meeting new friends and going and trying new activities that they may not have been able to do in their hometown. We combine that with all the things that they can do in the outdoors that relate to conservation education and just being a good steward of our natural resources.
Planning is already underway for next year's camp. If you'd like more information about the Youth Environmental Program, visit our website. You can also check out the program's Facebook page. Coming up, honoring those groups and individuals that are helping the DEP promote a healthy environment.
Plus, going green. Kelly Green, that is. Marshall coach Doc Holliday and 2 of his players pay a preseason visit to DEP headquarters.